especially critical on what happened in Maui without the facts. I don't want to do what they did to other people in these natural disasters, Trump and others with Puerto Rico and everything, and just crap it all over him without knowing it. Now that I know stuff, folks, Biden should just leave the presidency tomorrow. Yeah. But now what happened in Maui, I got that, and also an update on how they're going to scam this 2024 election, how they're going to Trump. Make sure that a patient of the blackout. Still more snips of blackout. Okay, folks, this is a serious topic, man. I've been waiting. I've been analyzing all the information, the data that's come in, the reporting, trying to weigh it, balance equities here about who's engaging in hysteria and who's telling the real story. And I feel like we've got a good grasp about what happened. The Biden presidency should be over. After the unbelievably uncaring, callous, and candidly evil response to the wildfires in Hawaii. Folks, it's incredible. Listen, I get it. I am not fault for as much as I really cannot stand Joe Biden. I mean a deep disdain for this kid-sniffing, woman-feeling, corrupt, bribe-taking, plagiarizing, sociopathic life. I can't blame this guy for the weather and a hurricane that went through there and spread these wildfires. But you can damn well blame this guy for the shit response and the just evil reaction to the death of what could be, when this is done, maybe close to or over 1,000 people, including kids. I mean, it is apocalyptic in certain portions of Maui from what good friends of mine on the ground are telling me. People dying horrible deaths. And what's rotting oatmeal brains doing? Sunning his nuts on a beach in Delaware. The most pathetic, disgusting human being we have ever seen. And believe me, I waited a few days to come to that analysis of it, because I wanted to give this guy a chance, just a chance, to for once in his pathetic, pride-taking life, to do the right thing. Yeah, man. He still hasn't been there. And it took him days, after no comment and all this other bullshit, to finally get his head out of his ass and to say something. Listen to this quick snippet of a report from CBS. But there may be hundreds of children who died. This is just horrible, but you got to know what's going on. Take a listen.
With more than 1,300 still missing, we heard about fears that many are children.
I'm just going to be very direct with people, always. When the bodies are smaller, we know it's a child. That's one of the toughest parts of this.
President Biden today speaking about the tragedy for the first time in 5 days.
Really? 5 days, folks. Took him 5 days to open his mouth. 5 days.
That's a shock.
5 days. You know, where the is this guy, man?
I don't know, bro.
Where is this guy? No assistance, no word, 5 days to talk about it. No government contact, or no government assistance, I should say, for 3 days. Here's even media people in the Brady press room yesterday asking the FEMA administrator, Deanna Criswell, who should just instantly resign after this. You are literally the head of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. This is what you do. 3 days to respond, 5 days for the administration to open their mouths about it? You gotta be shitting me, man. Here, listen to this. Even the left-wing hack media is starting to ask questions from this idiot in the White House. Take a listen.
Everything said about all the resources that are being brought to bear, but we keep interviewing survivor after survivor who says that either they didn't see any government personnel or assistance for days, or that they still haven't. How do you explain the disconnect between what they're saying and what you're saying about all the resources that are there right now?
I think you need to understand that this community is going through an amazingly traumatic event. I can tell you that we have personnel that are on the ground year-round and embedded in with the state as soon as the fire started, so we could continue to understand what resources were needed and help move them in.
Yeah, but you didn't do anything at all. For 3 days, you sat on your ass. It's not about politics.
It ain't.
But human beings in their cars. What the hell were you doing? Oatmeal brains sunning his nuts on the beach in Delaware? Nothing to say? Reminds me of Obama when the special mission complex in Benghazi was being assaulted. What was he doing? Sleeping. Gotta get those Z's in there, you know? God forbid there's a national emergency or anything, folks. And the local leadership in Hawaii, you get no pass either. Here is a guy by the name of Manuel. Kaylee Emanuel is a local official there who is being accused, these are allegations, of mismanaging water assets during this fire when they could have been used to put the fire.
Now, before you even say that, because, I'm watching this video for the first time. What I heard, what the man said is gonna disgust you, or like it's gonna make you want. He definitely should be held accountable for a lot of what's going on. When you hear what he
Free to
said.
defend himself or not. But then this surface. Now, this is not after. This has happened way before. But this is what happens when you put people in charge who want to pray to the water gods, besides actually helping people out there with water that could put a fire out. Folks, you got to get people in charge in these states, Democrat, Republican, conservative, or liberal, I don't care, who know what they're doing. The country's falling apart. We got a class of people in charge who seem to be so detached from reality, they give spiels like this when talking about the water. Listen to this.
The commission is responsible per our authorizing statute to protect and manage all water resources in the state. The One Water is looking at it from a holistic system perspective, and that's not any different than how Hawaiians traditionally manage water. In essence, we treated and Native Hawaiians treated water as one of the earthly manifestations of God and the Kua Kane. And so that reverence for a resource and that reciprocity in relationship was something that was really, really important to our worldview.
That's great. You're free to worship whoever you want. That's absolutely your right in the United States of America, which Hawaii is obviously a part of. Joe Biden probably doesn't know that. He probably thinks they're like the Virgin Islands or something like that. So,
They're part of us.
He probably thinks it's like he probably thinks that Hawaii's in Australia or something like that. Worship whoever you want.
Mm-hmm.
But you're a key government official paid by taxpayer dollars. Isn't it weird how the Establishment Clause only seems to apply, in rare circumstances for these people? I mean, this is just
Bizarre, is it? It makes you start wondering. In no way, shape, or form am I the type of guy to try to hinder somebody from being able to practice their beliefs and faith. But in a situation like this, bro, come on, are you serious? You have the opportunity and the resources to save lives and prevent this crisis from furthering more than what it is, and you hold it back on water. Then you got Joe Biden who's sitting in silence and waited 5 days before he responded. Where is the concern for the people, man? Honestly, is it not too much to ask for our president to actually be involved? Oh no, he can't. He's incapable.
This basically shows the incompetence of this president.
It feels like the American people are getting a slap in the face. I mean, I don't really expect him to be empathetic or have any compassion when he don't even acknowledge his own grandbaby. That definitely tells you what type of man he is. And you also can't convince me that he was somehow having a senior citizen moment. That was his actual reaction. You honestly get what you vote for, right?
Here, it gets even worse. Sorry for all this video, but this is just really, Joe Biden should just resign today.
Man.
Over what has been just, an unadulterated evil response to what happened here. How the media is not all over this guy. Here's John Podesta, one of his highest ranking advisors in the White House. Who again,
all he's supposed to be giving these people is $700 when he's giving to Ukraine billions of dollars?
To pump the Inflation Reduction Act and to make points and score points about climate change? Ladies and gentlemen, this actually happened. Listen for yourself. Check this out. To stop these disasters from getting even worse, we have to cut the carbon pollution that's driving the climate crisis. And that's what the Inflation Reduction Act is all about. It makes the largest investment in clean energy and climate action in the world, touching every sector: power, transportation, buildings, industry, agriculture, and
What is the agenda? What is the agenda?
Understand that we are being led by imbeciles. We are being led by a moron class.
The truth matters.
How roughly
There's no way possible you can.
The dumbest, most greedy.
There's no way possible you're supposed to allow legal lying lawyers to run your business.
At the same time, whether it's through the
Legal lying lawyers just run their fucking mouths for a living.
Congress, the Senate, how they all manage to find themselves in D.C. has been your doom and destruction.
You need a businessman or a businesswoman to run your business.
Only salvation is us. We are the leaders we've been waiting for. You understand?
Because knowing the legal lying lawyers who lie for a living, they're always going to leave a loophole to jump through when they get caught stealing your money.
That's not just some bumper sticker, that it's your time to take it back.
Us. Something else, right?
It is your duty.
It's time to wake up from these fucking criminals and put these liars in jail where they belong.
It's literally getting people. It's not a figurative statement. Sitting there in your basement with your freaking
where they belong.
All day in your Ben and Jerry's ice cream.
Yeah, this is ridiculous.
This is garbage running this place.
And of course, I'm gonna play devil's advocate because if Trump did this, y'all would crucify that man. Not only is he incompetent, he definitely doesn't know how to take accountability. But we gotta start taking some accountability as well. Just like this comment says, who's to blame when you have an incompetent president? The people who voted. Laugh emojis. You are all a joke. In America, we fell for it.
But when you think about it, did we really vote for him?
We know he responded days later after this crisis continued, but I like this comment right here. What makes me sick is not just him saying no comment, but the smirk on his face. Does anyone else need more proof that this evil man does not care about the American citizen? I don't know what it's going to take. I'm just kind of sitting back and waiting to see who they're going to blame it on. Because I know it's coming. Man probably don't even realize that Hawaii is a part of the U.S. At least he knows and understands that we're tired of it.
I know you gotta be frustrated. I know. I can taste it. Frustrated by high prices, by gridlock in Congress, by the time it takes to get anything done. Believe me, I understand the frustration. But the fact is, Congressional Republicans, not all of them, but the mega Republicans are going to...
I'm tired of people saying that they understand. Do you get the reason why that word was made up in the first place?
They have everything. They've done everything they can to slow down. That will hand power over to them and enact, so they can enact their extreme agenda.
Like people tell me that they understand how it feels to be in a wheelchair. No, you don't. You could never understand how it feels to be in a wheelchair. You have to get it. In order to get what a person is feeling while living in a wheelchair, you have to be in a wheelchair too. So understanding is a fucked up word to use, because I'm not standing over you, beating some shit in you that's not the truth. You see me in the wheelchair. That's the truth. You don't have to understand that. You just need to know that.
Troops in Afghanistan that led to the death of 13 Americans. Joe, it was you and the Democrat administration this entire time, Joe. You've been in office for a year and 5 months right now, and you've been a colossal failure. Don't shift the blame to the Republicans.
2.5 years now, and still this age well.
It's all up to your mistakes. You have failed the American people, and right now, many people are having a hard time just putting food on the table for their families. Some people can't even afford to fill their damn gas tank. Many people are going to work just to pay for gas to get to work, to put food on the table that they can't even afford. And it's all because of you, Joe. You have completely failed the American people.
Remember what everybody was saying? Never know Trump. I guess now they're saying never know Joe Biden.
It's crazy the delusion that they continue to try to push on you. Like, we don't see it without
No Joe Biden.
Joe is clearly not frustrated. I'm pretty sure he still has food on his table.
Joe Biden as president.
How he gonna get his next bill or his next check with the wages starting to suffocate them next to their bills. And maybe Biden didn't speak for that long because he was probably waiting to be told what to say. But on a very serious note, my heart and compassion and my
Goes out to Hawaii.
is going out to everybody that's affected by this tragedy.
But I'm still thinking that shit was a tragedy. I'm thinking that shit was done on purpose. Somebody won't use Hawaii for beach property. I'm just saying. Somebody want that Hawaii for themselves. That's the game. And it just ran it on all of it. Especially in Hawaii. Oh, my boy. here.
Remove the Georgia prosecution into federal court. We're going to go through the full filing. There are rumors now that Trump is going to do the same thing. They're invoking the supremacy clause. They're saying that, look, we were in federal government when this alleged criminality was in place, so we don't want a system where state governments can just go and muck up what's happening in the federal courts, or the federal government, rather. And so Mark Meadows is trying to take it from the state court up into the federal level. Let's go through the filing here. 14 pages submitted in the Northern District of Georgia, Georgia versus Mark Meadows, and this is just coming from Mark Meadows and his team only, but we expect them to be filed by Trump and his defense and probably many other defendants who this applies to.
The corruption is so deep you cannot trust nothing that's coming out of none of the courts.
You see Mark Meadows by counsel John Engler and others out of Georgia
Courts.
and D.C. They say, hey, Mark Meadows, former chief of staff to Trump, removed this proceeding from Fulton County Superior Court. Mark Meadows has got 2 counts, count 1 and 28. Meadows, they say, has a right to remove this matter. Conduct giving rise to the charges in the indictment all occurred during his tenure and as part of his service as Trump's chief of staff. In these circumstances, federal law provides for prompt removal of a criminal prosecution that is commenced in a state court against a federal official and involves his official individual capacity under color of office, U.S. Code. So Donald Trump tried this in New York, and they said that this didn't apply to him because the Alvin Bragg prosecution that involves Michael Cohen and all of the business transactions, he wasn't president yet, and that was not under color of his office, so he didn't meet that element. So in New York, it didn't get removed. But Trump was clearly president in all of the allegations that were in the RICO indictment, and so this might be a different situation. The removal statute protects the federal government from interference with its operation that would ensue if a state like Big Fanny were able, for example, to arrest and bring trial in a state court for an alleged offense against the state. So any state prosecutor would just say, well, we're just going to prosecute the president, just drag him into court. So they cite some case law saying that agents of the federal government, if they're acting within the scope of their authority, they should be immunized from those types of attacks. Meadows and his team say nothing Meadows is alleged in the indictment to have done is criminal per se, right? Per se. They say arranging Oval Office meetings, contacting state officials on the president's behalf, visiting a government building, setting up a phone call for Trump. One would expect a chief of staff of the president to do that stuff. And they have far less to do with the interest of state law than, for example, murder charges. And murder charges have been successfully removed before. They cite a case. Oh, so you can remove murder? This is precisely the kind of state interference in federal official duties that the supremacy clause of the U.S. Constitution prohibits, and the removal statute shields against. Meadows intends to file a motion to dismiss this indictment pursuant to Rule 12b of the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure as soon as feasible. He requests that this court order an evidentiary hearing to dispose of the prosecution as justice shall require. Justice requires the prompt dismissal of the charges against Mr. Meadows. At minimum, in the meantime, federal law requires granting removal, which will halt the state court proceedings against Meadows while the motion to dismiss is resolved. So basically, he's going to file a motion to dismiss saying that there is no alleged crime. There's actually no crime that even took place here. I don't even know why I'm listed in the indictment. There is no violation of U.S. code or state law, and so, Judge, I need you to dispose of this. So Meadows says, Your Honor, the federal court has jurisdiction. It arises, this case, directly from his service as chief of staff. He served in that role March 31st, 2020, January 20th, 2021. Before that, he was a member of the House of Representatives and served in Congress. The events giving rise to this indictment occurred during his role as the chief of staff, directly related to that role. Here's what they say. They say Meadows met with Michigan Senate leader and other Michigan legislators. Okay. He also sent a text message, Mark Meadows, illegal text message. He asked for a number. Can you send me the number for the speaker? Illegal. Another one, Rudy, Jenna Ellis, Donald Trump, and Mark Meadows met with a group of Pennsylvania legislators at the White House. Illegal. And they also outlined a strategy with John McKenty and others to prepare a memo. Okay, so like writing a strategy memo is illegal. And also Mark Meadows attempted to observe the signature match audit being performed there. Mark Meadows went and tried to observe Cobb County. He attempted to observe the signature match audit that was being performed there, despite the fact that the audit process was not open to the public. Illegal. Georgia deputy talked to him, and they prevented him from entering the audit space. So you can't see it. Sorry, Mark. And if you try to see it, an illegal act, furtherance of a racketeering conspiracy. Mark Meadows falsely stated on a phone call that Trump won by hundreds of thousands of votes. Illegal. Arranged the call. So he didn't even make the call. He arranged the call, and then Donald Trump made the call. Meadows also sent a text message. Is there a way to speed up the county signature verification? Illegal. They say that he also solicited the Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger. Right, you get the rest of it. So they say the charged conduct here, all of that stuff, was done by Mr. Meadows as the chief of staff. It's apparent on the face of the indictment that Meadows arranged meetings for Trump. He went to a site. He tried to review the audit because, and only because, he was serving as the chief of staff. Wanted to report back to the president how the audit was going. Meadows, in his role as chief of staff, also arranged phone calls between the president and Georgia officials. These and other acts that form the basis, all of the charges all fall squarely within his conduct as chief of staff. So Meadows, and Trump's going to make a similar claim, has defenses to the charges in Georgia. Says these claims arise under federal law and also got a federal immunity defense under the Article 6 of the U.S. Constitution. They say for purposes of removal, it is enough that the defendant, in this case Meadows, has a plausible defense. Here the charges against Meadows far exceed that low threshold. It should be clear from the face of the indictment that the charges against Meadows should be dismissed. So for the purposes of removal, the court doesn't need to make that determination. He's entitled to remove this action because it plausibly gives rise to a federal defense, namely that he was the White House chief of staff. We complied with the notice requirements, so we've notified everybody about this. No process has been served upon Mr. Meadows. Like we're early enough in this process yet. While removal can be initiated later, it might be appropriate to do it right now. The defense says that the court should hold an evidentiary hearing. We respectfully ask this court to hold an evidentiary hearing and either dismiss the charges outright because of the Supremacy Clause or grant a removal and notify the state court and hold the proceedings. Meadows respectfully submits this disposition is for charges that must be dismissed under the Supremacy Clause. Even if the court is not prepared to dismiss right now, justice requires the removal that we can consider this in a better court. We're arguing for a few things. They say first, the court should promptly dismiss all charges against Meadows under the Supremacy Clause. The Supremacy Clause says the following: this Constitution and the laws of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges of every state shall be bound thereby. The Supreme Court has long interpreted the Supremacy Clause to provide federal officials of immunity from suit involving state charges to protect federal operations. And with the police power, including the power to define and punish crimes, it's reserved to the state, but it cannot be employed against federal officials. And a federal official is entitled to immunity if he's authorized to do what he did, if it was his duty. Here, it's unmistakably clear. The indictment charges Meadows with alleged crimes based on the acts he took as chief of staff to Trump. Therefore, he's entitled to immunity from the Supremacy Clause. The court should dismiss all charges against Mr. Meadows. And even if you're not prepared to rule on the dismissal, you should remove the case. The standard for removal is even easier to meet than other standards. And so therefore, the court should promptly dismiss the charges against Mr. Meadows, or at minimum, accept removal and stay the state court proceedings. So interesting. We'll see if the judge does it. I think the judge should do it, of course, but we know that we're dealing with very unprecedented types of cases. Even the case against Trump in New York was not removed. A federal judge reviewed it and said, no, not close enough for us. So we'll see. Now, Trump is expected to file a very similar motion, and this is going to be a big battle because the Georgia prosecutors are going to want to keep it at the state court. Trump, if he removes it, he can get a better judge, theoretically, somebody he appointed, and likely a better jury pool. Although charges were filed in state court, Trump is expected to argue that much of the conduct he's been charged with was undertaken in his capacity as the president. He was still president during the critical period when they attempted to allegedly subvert the election results. So removal statute, as we read through, allows them to do this. Trump already tried to do this in New York, but a federal judge there rejected the effort. They said, no, stays in state because it didn't really implicate Trump's powers as president. That obviously is not going to be the case here. Trump, as the executive of the country, has an obligation to go and investigate any malfeasance as the chief executive of the country. And so Mark Meadows trying to remove it. Donald Trump will also be trying to remove it. And that would take this whole case away from the biggest nanny in Georgia, and it would be a big victory. Of course, we'll continue to cover, my friends. Thank you for subscribing as we do.